Whether you're new to pool and practicing the basics, or a more experienced player performing drills to improve your shot making and positional play, the Drill Partner is perfect for you.
Happy Thanksgiving, Raymond. How are you, sir?
Very good. How are you?
I'm alive, buddy. That's all that I can ask for at this point, man. I'm doing good though. I'm doing good. Happy holidays, man. Everything go good for you today?
Yeah, good day today. Had a busy day today. Lots of stuff going on, preparing for this weekend. Obviously, I'm going to be at the Hall of Fame banquet, so I was getting some stuff put together for that, and then obviously had Thanksgiving dinner with the fam and all that. So this is like the first moment of peace I've had today, where I've been able to sit down and just chill.
And then I'm like, yo, I need your help for like an hour.
Put me in, coach.
That's how it works, man. No, it's the biggest time of year. It's Mosconi time. Let me ask you a question though off the bat, because I just got done traveling all day. What's it like having the biggest event of the year like in your backyard?
I mean, it's about time, I paid my dues, you know. I've been traveling.
Get a little damn respect around here.
That's right. Yeah. No, Florida's doing great. I think it's great to have such a big event here in Orlando. It's fantastic. I mean, it makes a lot of sense for a lot of reasons. It's a hospitality hub. Obviously, used to hosting millions of people coming into the city all the time, a very big international airport, so it's easy to access from different countries. And it's family friendly too. There's theme parks, there's beaches, there's natural stuff all over the place. There's restaurants. Like it's a great city and very central in Florida, which is great. So yeah,
traveling was easy, man. My first time coming over here, and it was like I think I had one connection. That was it, which was beautiful.
Right. Yeah, it's you get that with big airports and stuff, and so MCO is incredibly busy throughout the year. So MCO is the reason why I got clear and TSA pre-check because I don't want.
I need to get that at this point, dude. It's like it's so brutal having a fade going through there and waiting in line, and I tell you, like I had the worst experience leaving Vietnam. Coming into it wasn't the best of experiences, but leaving, I had battery packs in my bags, but I also had like my supplements, that I'll take whenever I work out and stuff, and so. Those I was a little bit worried about just because I don't know. You just never know, right? And it's all on the level, like, here in the States, but you just never know whenever you're traveling. And so they pulled me out one time when I was first going through giving my passport, and they pulled me out a second time. And both times I'm like sweating. They take me down some like Silence of the Lambs elevator dungeon, you know what I mean? And they're like, come with me, but they don't speak any English, so they're just like, give me this number. I'm thinking it's a wrap, son. I'm not going to see my girls anymore. It's over with. Long story short, just a couple of rechargeable battery packs were the ones that caused the delay. But it's been a busy year. I'm glad that it's the end of the year, at least for me. And what better way to end it than being out here in Orlando, the Mosconi Cup. It's the Super Bowl for, I guess, our sport, and something that we look forward to every year. Before we get into, because by the way, for the show, we're going to go through player by player. We're going to break down their break, their safety play, all that fun stuff. So we're going to peel back on all 10 guys here. But before we jump into it, I want to just ask you, did the Reyes Cup by any chance, did it kind of like lessen the vibe coming into this event for you at all?
I don't know if it lessened so much the vibe. It was definitely, for me, I felt like it's going to be an advantage for Team Europe to get an opportunity, like a rep, like a high quality rep against a really good quality team.
Yeah.
The Mosconi Cup. And, they're going to go through and weaknesses are going to be exposed.
But that you could say that could be a benefit for Team USA though, by showing weaknesses.
Yeah, it's information for sure, but it gives them time to work on it, And so, it was interesting. I mean, I wasn't surprised so much by necessarily the quality of play that Asia showed. I was surprised at kind of how lame, Europe. I never felt like Europe really punched back. They took a few on the chin and they were on the back foot. And, Jason had a couple late points and played good that last day, but it really never felt like Europe was in it the way they have been in it in the Mosconi Cup. You're used to them being in.
They're used to being the bully. They're not used to getting bullied. So it was
Right.
a very different dynamic for them.
Yeah, and I think it sets up well. I think for our matchups, for this Mosconi Cup, it's going to be great. We're 2 years removed from the last time I was here in the U.S., and that was a really intense Mosconi Cup. That was my first time seeing it in person, and I lost my voice at the end of day one, rookie move. So I'm trying to survive day one and have a voice day.
Ray. Yeah,
that's right. Yeah, I was full tilt. So it'll be interesting to see how the lineups go and how it all plays out. So we'll see.
Well, the reason why I wanted to get you on is because I know you got such just like, rabid fanfare for the Americans. You're like one of the biggest homers that I know. And so that's, I wanted to like debate with you and kind of go over all the guys. And we're going to start right off the top, right? We're going straight for the jugular. We're going for the captain here to start off with Sky Woodward. Let's talk some positives with Sky before we jump on into maybe some holes in the captain's game.
Yeah, I would say Sky is probably our best player of the Mosconi Cup the last 5 years. Probably the person who has played up to the level and pressure of the moment the best for Team USA, Mr. Reliable, and really there was a couple.
Not even close.
Yeah, there's a couple years there where it was a joke. He just played so strong and so consistently strong and won big points, carried a lot for the team, and put the team in serious positions to win big matches. And I think he's the last person to make the winning 9-ball for Team USA. The last year they won it. They just shared that clip today where he beat Josh Filler in the last.
I just saw that ironically right before he went on.
Yeah, so Sky's big time, and I think he's got a great game that holds up well under pressure as long as he has done the work and is sharp and playing good. And I think Sky kind of took some time more for himself this year. Didn't chase the tournaments as intensely as he had in the past. And even with that, he was a couple matches away from stealing that third spot from Tyler right at the end. So it just shows you how good he can really play and dab it, against the top guys. And I think in that short format, somebody who has his skill set, he's got a good break. He's got the banking skills that are really going to help him in certain spots. I think he'll probably have the banking advantage over him, and Billy definitely have the highest kind of banking skill set amongst all the players. Then you would probably put Shane and Fedor. I would probably say the USA has the top 4 bankers when it comes to.
Well, that's good when you're playing one pocket and banks, and
Well, no, it comes up a lot. It's going to come up a lot on that slidey table where you get into some goofy spots and they play this little dinky up table safety and leave you a bank. They're going to think twice about it with a few of our guys, especially Sky and Billy.
The one thing with Sky that I love is that the pressure just kind of runs through him, and similar. Yeah, he does, and he can weather a lot, and he doesn't necessarily wear it. It doesn't weigh him down the moment, which I just thoroughly appreciate from watching his game. I love his demeanor. I love his laid back attitude. I don't know how well that's going to serve him being a captain and having to kind of be in charge of running the ship. But you can't argue the way that he's performed over the last few years. I think he's gotten the respect of the Europeans through the course of his Mosconi Cup play and the way that he can execute very much like Josh, when you need a big point, when you need a big shot, he can come with one for you, and you can depend on him. That transition versus kind of being, second in command to Shane or second in command to Jeremy versus now kind of being the leader in the locker room, so to speak. I'm curious to see how that transition is going to work for him because, he does have a lot going on. But, yeah, I think his all-around game will certainly serve him well. He can come up with some pretty creative shots from the banking standpoint, his one-pocket prowess. I also feel like his safety play is severely underrated, along with, his 2 and 3 rail kicks. His kick return game is pretty phenomenal, and you're going to need that when you're facing the likes of David and Fran and these guys who can really bottle you up. Like I think from a kicking standpoint, Sky might be, top 3 to 5 in the world. I think he's got that kind of execution and that experience playing on that table. You know what I mean? He knows how to adjust when it comes to the slide. He can.
He's one of those guys that clears tables. Like the tables that he's supposed to get out, he's going to get out.
He gets out. Yeah.
And then there's certain tables that he's not supposed to get out. He still gets out of those too. And he probably his strongest shot is this up, like just cutting the ball down the rail, 5-6 diamonds of table. Like Carl says it all the time when he watches him play, like he might be the best in the world at that particular shot. And it's one of those shots that he just comes with it repeatedly and consistently. So, Sky's a big time player. So I think it's great that he's on the team and he's been, our top guy basically the last 5 years. So we're going to rely on him this week for sure.
Well, he's going to have a lot of weight on his shoulders, just given, wearing that captain's hat this week, and along with kind of carrying the load with just kind of hyping guys up and keeping everyone in line and so on, and keeping his finger on the pulse. I think he's he's good at being light and just kind of keeping the mentality like, super easy going. But like you have to know when there's times when you got to teach and coach the other way as well. You know what I mean? And so I'm curious to see how he's going to respond in those kind of situations. Look, I think that if you're going to ask for any kind of question marks when it comes to Sky's game, I would put the break probably at the top of that list. In short race 9-ball, when you're alternating the break, we all know how important that's going to be. I'm not saying he's a liability when it comes to his break, but just as far as his consistency level relative to the Europeans, and even for guys on his team, I'm curious to see how his break is going to do this week. Look, he's a leader. There's a reason why he's a captain. His recent form has been phenomenal. I think, like, when he does play, right? So we don't get to see a big sample size from him throughout the year, where he's not touring like the regional circuits per se and so on. But all in all, I mean, listen, this is about what you're going to ask for when it comes to him coming into December. And he just thrives.
He's probably the 4th best breaker on Team USA.
I know who I think is number 1. I'm curious to see who you think is number 1. And actually, number 1 may be a little number 1, number 2.
It's very close. It's actually pretty close to top 3. I would probably say probably Fedor's number 1, and Tyler's like right there. I mean, I'm
right there with you. I'm right there with you, 1,000,000%. I think Tyler's
consistent with the break. He really has it. And then Shane has got the power side of it. You know what I mean? As far as like he's
always got that to rely on.
Right.
Does Shane?
Yeah. And I I kind of had peeked into their practice room the other day and saw Shane. They were all hitting the break well. You know what I mean? So I think by this time of the year, they're going to have it kind of figured out. I'm pretty sure that if it goes to, if it follows the format of the Reyes Cup, I was happy to see the Reyes Cup use the template rack. I think that's very good it's good for both teams. They spent all year working on this break, and then, you don't need a variable like, referee dumping you with a dogged rack, especially, a short race. It's just too important. So if they do the same thing with the template rack, I think we're going to see the best breakers doing what they have done all year and putting pressure on their opponents with the break. So
well, I think it's a matter of being able to adapt, and not even so much in the short term, because you're playing alternate break short race. So, I mean, it's almost impossible, right? But like being able to understand that you're going to get back to another match, number 1, being able to keep that mindset super high and focused, going into that in case it does kind of let you lose a point, which can be discouraging. But the one thing I love about Shane, and very much like I would compare it to like Kaçi, in that he's always got that muscle in his back pocket just in case he needs to. We'll jump back into Shane here in a little bit, but I want to transition over to the European captain and Jason Shaw. He's been the leader of this team. He is for the last few years. Very much this team's like Darren Appleton. I thought going into the year, I know he won Hanoi, but there was a lot of like, for me, is this kind of like ceremonial, or are they just kind of giving this guy a thing because he can, he's good for TV? But his game seemed to pop up at the right time. He didn't obviously repeat in Hanoi, but he had a real strong match against Ko where he ended up losing, but he was up pretty big in that one, and that was his only, I think, loss in that tournament. And just all in all, I think a lot of really high things when it comes to Jason, especially in the Mosconi Cup. But I'm curious to hear your thoughts, Ray.
Yeah, I think Jason is kind of one of these guys who's like a really high upside. He's like a pendulum momentum guy, and the ceiling when it's swinging in his favor is really high, like really
interesting.
But I also feel like kind of the nature of his game a little bit is a little too loose, and so sometimes, especially in short races, like things can go a certain way, and he can. Sometimes I've seen him. It takes him a little while to get going because he's such a rhythm kind of guy, and so maybe the first couple matches he might be vulnerable, and he might play a little tight, and it's almost like he needs the extra heat and the extra punches to really get going and playing great. But obviously he's got a ton of experience, probably the most experience right now for Team Europe, and he's an emotional kind of leader for them. But this is kind of a new team, and I feel like the lack of synergy is going to challenge him in ways where in the past he could pull on similar strings and leverage the synergy of the whole team, and I feel like this group hasn't shown that yet. Obviously they didn't show it in Manila, and no. But there was, like the last day in Manila, he went out there and won 2 big points for them back to back, and he's very dangerous when he gets into that mode where like if you have him beat like in a match and then he just starts swinging, he switches this thing into give up stroke, where he just
like 2-stroke it,
like just takes all the pressure off himself, like he's just like committed to, and then
that can be dangerous the other way because then he can kind of like almost will himself back into gear, Ray.
Like when you know what I mean, is when he just shuts off this like fear, this tension of the match. He's like kind of giving it up and just goes out there and is very attacking. I feel like he can steal match. I've seen him snatch matches from spots that he's not supposed to win from, you know what I mean? And it's devastating. So he's obviously just triple straight shooter and very talented. So our job will be to keep pressure on him and keep him on his back foot and not let him get settled for sure. So
I think those are the matches for the Americans that you really gotta like cut them off at its head because they go as Jason goes, I feel like. Or, I mean, listen, there's a lot of guys in that camp who are reliable, but I feel like Jason's very much a huge wild card for them because he can very much be the spark plug for that team in so many aspects. I think from a leadership standpoint, we know why he's in that role. He's earned it. He's proven it. He's been through winning teams and teams that have gotten embarrassed, including just a month ago in Manila. So I think like those types of things are going to serve him well in this role. The one thing that I can appreciate, or that I think he's kind of got a leg up, like, listen, on one hand, you can say, well, you don't have Albin and Josh in like standing behind you. So how confident are you going to be, right? Especially when you start having some challenges throughout that tournament. It was one thing years ago when you were stealing and free rolling because you knew, hey, listen, even if I'm not the guy, I got 2 other guys who are the guys right behind me, and they're not going to be there this year, right? And then the other side of it is,
I think this year Jason has the most pressure he's ever had on him as an individual in the Mosconi Cup to date. And so this is going to be a different kind of like similar for Sky. It's a different role for him now in the leadership role outright as a captain, and having to deal with new players and kind of manage it without somebody helping him as far as like an actual managerial captain. I think the pressure's on Jason to show up for Team Europe. And I think he's in the spot now where in the past Shane was in that spot where you knew if you got Shane to unplug or if you took Shane out, then the rest of
it was a wrap.
Really struggle. I feel like Jason's kind of in that spot now for Team Europe.
Well, I agree with you to an extent. The only thing that I would say to that is, though, you got guys who are winners on the other side. Now, they're not winners. They're not the the legendary Mosconi Europeans that we're used to seeing, out there, but they're winners in their own right, in their own individual major tournaments. And that's why they're, on that stage to begin with, So I think like they all know how to dig deep within themselves. Guys like Fran and David, obviously they've been through there a couple times, as has Kaçi. Mickey's obviously a big question mark. But, like, there's no secondary guy for Jason. Like, Jason is the guy, and then it's everybody else. Like, there's no secondary leader there.
I feel like he's the glue that's trying to connect a lot of the players. And that I think makes him very important to their success, their chemistry. I think there's chemistry issues there that he has to solve for. And I think, they've obviously been doing stuff like, holding hands, fishing and stuff, and shooting guns, and, trying to build some
Here we go. Here comes the shit talking already.
As soon as I saw the first sauna post,
is it not playing video games, Ray? Would you rather is the video games okay?
I'm all for it. I support it. As soon as I saw the first sauna post,
let me get some coconut coffee over here and take some selfies.
He's serious about the Mosconi Cup. They busted out the cold plunge and sauna. So as soon as I saw that,
look. There's a difference though, Ray, because I feel like their bonding is a little bit different, obviously, because they're Europeans. But, like, those guys have a different level of discipline, a different level of work ethic. And look, I know you went to the training facility with the Americans or whatever. They go watch them hit some balls, but I saw them last year, and this is whenever they had Double J. That was a lot of times when Jeremy was trying to wrangle these guys because you couldn't corral them. They were too busy dicking around and joking around, and so without having that bad guy, so to speak, in there to check everyone.
The pressure's on Styer to kind of shape how. I mean, he's going to establish how the team is going to vibe and how they're going to operate, and it's his team, right? So he's got to establish what works and what doesn't work. I think Jason's got a clear idea of what works, and now he's just trying to get those guys to align with that. And they've had a dry run already. You know what I mean? Team USA hasn't had a dry run yet, so that's an advantage for Europe. And I think they're going to probably be more structured about their. You would assume they're going to be more structured than Team USA is for sure.
I would say so, just from a history standpoint, but I just feel like they know what they have to do those guys, because a lot of them have been through it. Mickey's the only one you kind of have to like pull up to speed when it comes to like, hey, this is how it goes around here. But like he knows his place in the pecking order. You know what I mean? Like he knows he's the runt of that pack right now.
And he's going to be a team guy. I think he's happy to be in a position surrounded by champions. That's like got to be the best spot to be in. You know what I mean?
Just like absorb.
He earned his spot. I think he's going to handle his time well. So
let's jump into SVB Captain America. We all know, I was going to say Mr. Mosconi, but he's really not Mr. Mosconi. Never really has been Mr. Mosconi. But I feel like this year more than ever, if I were to make a case as to why the Americans are going to win, it's because this dude right here is going to play about as loose, as free as he's ever played before. And I feel like that's when he's the most dangerous, Ray.
Yeah, that last year he came out on day 3 and had an unbelievable match. He played dead perfect against Josh, who you would suspect would be his toughest matchup. And whatever he did in the locker room to figure that out, they just got to rinse and repeat that for his prep before every match.
Is that not when they were down like 10-2 or something, right?
But still, it takes it's easy to come out there and not show that kind of energy. You know what I mean? So the fact that he did, that's an insight that, hey, he has it in him. We know it's there, right? Obviously, he just won the Bigfoot 10 ball. He's, finalist at the U.S. Open this year. The guy's a Hall of Famer. He's about to be a Hall of Famer. By this time tomorrow night, he'll be officially a Hall of Famer. So, I think we all know what SVB is capable of. So it's up to Sky and the crew to come around him and support him and give him what he needs to go out there and be the hammer. He should just be a hammer that when you put out there, he just crushes. You know what I mean? He goes out there and whacks whoever, because the way the European roster is set up, I mean, on paper, he's supposed to crush all those guys. You know what I mean? He's supposed to just go out there and drop hammers. Obviously there's great players on Team Europe and there's going to be competition and all that. But, if he does what he does, he can beat anybody in the world more than they can beat him. So
Well, except for the guys who aren't there, or at least the guy who's not there, and Josh, I would agree with you there. You
I
know,
don't know
and
who you're talking about. I don't know who you're talking about.
Emily's gonna know who I'm talking about whenever I see her tomorrow.
Yeah.
No, but listen, I feel like every year there's always a lot of question marks when it comes to Shane, and every year we always are talking at the end of the Mosconi Cup about what he did do, what he didn't do, you know, body language, energy from Shane, checking out from Shane. Um, should Shane be on the team, which is just a ridiculous thing that I see online from time to time. But look, I feel like the fact that this dude hasn't been a talking point, right? Everything's been super positive with him, and let's face it, the dude just hasn't shown up in this event before, and he's still okay with living his life the way that he wants to live it, and the fans still adore him, and he will be inducted to the Hall of Fame tomorrow, which is going to be great. But like there's been so many other angles that people have been talking about leading up to this event where I feel like if Shane's kind of the afterthought, and in some respects I feel like he is,
Yeah,
then that's where that dude's gonna be. It's a wrap.
That's when he,
you know, it's
best.
Yeah, because he doesn't like the glitz and the glam. He just likes going out and playing pool and being number one, but he don't have to tell you he's number one. He's just gonna go out there and show you that
right.
He's number one. You know, and
I think the way the team is set up this year, the American team, it allows Shane to just kind of be in his pocket. You know what I mean?
Yes, because Sky is going to absorb some of it. Fedor's going to, you know, rally on the crowd. You know, there's so many other things that are going to be going on. Jason's going to be, you know, B&J. And so all Shane's going to go out there is put the cue together, turn off the ears, and go out there and do what Shane does. And if he doesn't, it's okay because you still got Fedor. Just like what Jason had and having Josh in his back pocket, it's okay with Shane because you got Fedor right behind you. And oh, by the way, you got Sky right behind you. You know, so like I don't have to carry anybody right now. I don't have to be the leader. I don't have to be all these things that I'm uncomfortable with being. I can just be SVB. I can go play pool. I can just execute when the pressure is pretty high. But I expect big things. Now, whether or not I'm going to get big things, you know, from them big results is going to be a different story, Ray. So I'm curious to see how that's going to.
He's sponsored by one of the sponsors of this show, Q-Tech. So,
well, I mean, to be fair, they'll sponsor anyone after they sponsored me. You know what I mean? So, and the show. No, I'm kidding. Big shout out to Q-Tech. They are big friends of the show, and obviously of Shane and a bunch of other guys, and they're like family at this point. So much appreciation to them and all of our sponsors that we have throughout the Mosconi Cup and throughout the rest of the year as well. Ray, who are we jumping on to next, man? I'll let you make the call.
Is it one of the players for Team Europe then?
Let's go Europe, yeah.
Put up Alcaide.
All right, let's go. Oh, I'm pretty sure I spelled his name wrong now. Okay, here we go. We're going David. All right, talk to me about David because I feel like this dude's about as sneaky as it gets for Team Europe.
I think this is going to be Europe's Mr. Consistent.
Agreed.
A great guy who can slot in. He's like this team's Albin, I think.
That's a great comparison, Ray, actually.
You just really tight, you know, with his cue ball. He's playing really great. Good team player, can probably, you know, slot in there as a good doubles partner for a lot of guys. And obviously very decorated.
Preach it, Ray.
Huh?
No, I said preach.
Yeah, I think.
Say it louder.
Oh, no, I mean, you know, he's the man. You know, he's gonna play well. He's playing. He's optimized now for his peak shower stuff. He's made the transition. He had a dip at the beginning when that happened, which is understandable. And now he's back to playing, you know, close to his full game, if not his full game, making deep runs in all the events. So I think David's going to be one of those guys that, you know, right along with Jason, you're probably going to put up there as you know, top two players for Team Europe, I think.
Top two in terms of breakers for me when it comes to Team Europe. I would say he's right there in that same Tyler Fedor kind of category as well. You know,
probably the best tactical player for Team Europe as well.
Agreed.
Yeah, I'm pretty comfortable saying that with the defense and the kicking and just playing solid pool. I think, you know, David's going to continue to do what he's going to do. Now, whether there's hidden synergies there that we're not aware of, him and Mickey or him and Kaçi,
There was some tension between him and Jay in Manila, and what I mean by that is like David kind of deferring to Jason because Jason was just kind of micromanaging a little too much for me at points during that event, especially early on. Where David kind of felt comfortable one way, Jason was kind of pushing back a different way. I remember in particular, David went for a shot that Jay was kind of just swinging his weight around a little bit, and he ended up scratching the side, and immediately David just kind of like stares holes into Jason. So I'm curious to see how that dynamic's going to shift, if at all. Because I do feel like in many respects he is this team's Albin, and that's a huge comparison and a great compliment to David. And it's not something that we're just given to him here. It's something that he's earned over the years, given the way that he's performed out there on that stage and how he gets there. Like everyone kind of cracks jokes that David runs good and David gets great opportunities, and he does, 1,000,000% he does. But he makes the best of it, and he earns your respect by the way he goes out there and competes once he gets on that stage, Ray. And that's something that nobody can take away from you. I'm that leadership part though. I'll be keeping an eye on when it comes to how he'll be doing. I agree also with you that I feel like you can plug him in with anyone and he'll be okay. Like Kaçi's energy is not going to bring him down. He'll leave Mickey alone and just kind of let Mickey be Mickey. Obviously, we know what him and Francisco can do, and then of course him and Jay go have played on teams before as well. So I think he's super reliable. I think that even if he loses, he can bounce back and he can come with a big point if you need him to.
Yeah.
And I don't care what scenario that you're asking. Maybe a big shot and maybe a little bit of a question mark, but like the all around, I love David, man. Safety play, kicking, everything.
Yeah, the break, everything's really good, and expect him to play well. He had that great match last time the Mosconi Cup was here in the U.S. was Skyler, when Skyler had that bridge extension situation that crucial.
And that was at a big spot. That's when USA was making a comeback.
Yeah, huge spot of the match that ties the match up. I think at 8-8.
8-8. Yeah.
And so obviously like big time player, So
and that was, I want to say that was after he had just gotten his ass whooped the match before in doubles, if I'm not mistaken. Then he comes back out and breaks like a monster. Like it was just unreal the way that he just shifted like from one player to the next. And
he responds really well for sure. Yeah.
Without a doubt. Switching back to the American side, Ray, I want to transition over to Billy Thorpe, America's number 5th pick, their second wild card. Let's talk energy with Billy.
Yeah, Billy, I think he's kind of like Team USA's Jason, where he's also like a pendulum momentum guy, where the upside for him will be high. Probably not as high you would expect as Jason, but really when you compare that to the expectation, if Billy swings and hits his momentum and gets a couple big points for us, that's huge for the team, because Team USA is going to be, obviously the crowd loves him, the fans love him, and he's a big kind of energy momentum guy, and he's going to keep the guys probably pushing hard and engaged. I think he's going to be a great guy to slot in with certain people. Like he obviously he's going to have a lot of chemistry with Sky. We're going to expect them to play doubles together. You might see him play doubles with Fedor maybe, or Shane. Fedor and him have been hanging out quite a bit. And so, if you get a point in the team match, you get a point, and maybe in your singles match, you get a point with Sky as your partner. You get 2-3 points. That's your job. Like when you're a wild card, you're a guy who's coming.
Like even 2, you're good. 2 is great. 2 is great.
It's awesome. You're like, man, you're carrying weight. You've made a contribution to the team. You're getting the team closer to where they are. And then the rest of the intangibles are going to play out in the locker room, pumping up the crowd, getting the fans engaged, all that stuff he's going to bring to the table. And I think the American crowd is going to show up really big here. And Billy's kind of like a crowd guy. So, and again, he's one of these guys that, has some of these ancillary skills that is world class. You might argue he's the best banker in the world, Billy, and it's just a big skill to have. It takes away certain things that on other guys you can maybe take advantage of. So he's just going to have an opportunity to come with big shots, big recovery shots, maybe for your partner, because of when the cloth is really slippery and sliding and you can't get inside English to come around 4 rails, you got to settle for a bank, and that's the guy that is coming up behind you. You feel a little better about it, when it's him that has to come with the bank. So I think Billy's is one of those guys that has really big moment potential and really big match potential. Like, he's one of those guys that when he gets locked in and feels the energy of the crowd and feels like he can steal a match, like he's beaten Jason in the Mosconi Cup before, like I think he'll have. He has the potential to do that. You know what I mean? And if he can go out there and win a single,
that's match, all you want from him.
That's all you need. The rest is like the crowd stuff. You know what I mean? And like the energy with the locker room and keeping the guys locked in and positive. And I think that's just part of who he is. So he's kind of like, that speaks to his strengths for sure.
Yeah, I don't think that's something that you have to like work towards being, which is great, because now you're not, wasting energy trying to be something that you're not, which is especially when you have guys who can, like, let's just be real, who can be a little bit flat. Like, Fedor's kind of taking on that role where he's being more, involved with the crowd, but like that's out of character for him. Tyler is not, Mr. Rah guy by any means, and Shane said the most words you're going to hear from Shane are tomorrow night, during his Hall of Fame speech. And even then the over-under is going to be pretty low, and so, but, look, I agree with you. Billy's upside is massive. I feel like he can come with big wins in spots where maybe you don't like. Maybe he's on paper going to be an underdog to come with one. He can give a body blow back to the Europeans and beat a guy like Jay or beat a guy like Eklent.
It'll hurt the most coming from him, because they're going to look at him as maybe the weak link and
chalk one up for the Europeans is what they're going to be thinking.
That's right. And so if you gut them, that's an opportunity to gut them emotionally and start just draining them of life. You know what I mean? And
right. Yeah, absolutely.
You have to look at those as opportunities to really hurt their psyche and almost like treat it like it's a free roll in a sense, because.
Well, but don't overthink it either, right? That's the other side of the coin, where like you don't want to put too much on you where like, I got this big opportunity here.
No. I think he understands like what's up. You know what I mean? And he's going to give himself an opportunity to win a match. And he, again, is one of these guys that can come with a big shot or come with a big moment and steal a match, especially short format stuff. You know what I mean? So I think stealing a match from somebody like a Kaçi or a Jason or something like that would do, it's kind of like a plus bonus, an emotional plus bonus for Team USA and a multiplying like hurt for Team Europe.
Well, so, he's got experience for sure. And I listen, I think other than maybe him beating Mickey, I feel like anything else is kind of right in that category. You know what I mean? Because everyone else you would expect, if he beats Mickey, it's like, okay, well, that's the rookie. You know what I mean? No disrespect to Mickey, because I think Mickey can and will have to come with a big point in his own right. But listen, I agree with you when it comes to the upside of Billy. Big shots, listen, he's been on that stage before. It's different than going and playing, on a 4.5-inch pocket diamond table at the Derby, So, but like I said, he's been out there under those lights in years past. So, look, he was obviously a big talking point leading into the Mosconi Cup. From a chemistry standpoint, he's going to fit in really well with a lot of guys. If there's any kind of liability when it comes to his pocketing, how will that energy shift the other way? If there is any kind of like, getting down, because the people are going to look to him to kind of be that guy to keep everyone pushing forward. You know what I mean? So who's going to kind of help him keep his head up? But look, he's an exciting player to watch. He's made for TV in so many aspects. And I know a lot of people are looking forward to watching him go out there and compete. A lot of eyes will be on Billy this week, but he's got a lot of heart. Does Billy, and he doesn't give up. And those intangibles are why he's there. Big opportunity for Billy in the next few days, without a doubt.
Yeah, for sure.
Let's jump into the rookie, Ray, Mickey. A lot of question marks, but he kind of, like you mentioned earlier, got a bit of a pass with the Reyes Cup earlier on this year. How are you clocking Mickey right now?
Yeah, I mean, Mickey's done everything right that you could ask for somebody who's going to come in and take a spot on a team. Like, the kid has been committed to big events. Obviously, he won a big tournament this year, big Matchroom Open event, and kind of like stole a show there, and has been in the box and in the grease. Like, when he went to Southeast Asia, he was gambling all the time, playing cheap sets and getting his work in. Like, he's doing his job to go there sharp and prepared. He's been sparring with Niels quite a bit. I mean, the kid is doing everything. Like, he's in a great position for himself to go out and perform well. So, I think he breaks the balls well. I think he manages his cue ball well. I think he's just got to try and find a way to feel himself and confident and not over defer. Sometimes, being the younger player, you can almost kind of like defer out a little bit. And I saw a little bit of that, to your point, when Jason,
especially when you have big alpha personalities like Jay.
Yeah, you have to. There's like a certain balance to, like, hey, I'm happy to do whatever I need to do to win, but I'm my own player too. And so, how you assert yourself in that dynamic.
I feel like that's more on the shoulders of Jay to figuring out where that tipping point is versus Mickey. But at the same time, you're right, because listen, you're gonna have to. At the end of the day, you got to be your own man.
Yeah, you got to demand it too. And I think, Mickey's a super sweet guy, very nice guy. And I think figuring out how he can go about doing that for himself and kind of, establishing like, hey, I'm Mickey Krause, bro. Like, Google me, and figure it out, and then that, just have the trust of your team. I think I had peeked into the European practice earlier, the other day, and Mickey was at the table hitting balls, and Jason and the rest of the guys were watching him and coaching him and stuff. So obviously he's working with this team, and they're putting in hours. So I expect him to break well. I think he'll break well. He'll shoot well.
He breaks the balls really good, Ray. I mean, really good.
Yeah. I think whether he keeps his head and doesn't rush through something will be important. I think he will probably be the most vulnerable to the crowd. So, Team USA crowd, I think is gonna.
I don't know if vulnerable is the word. Question marks for sure, though, because we just haven't seen it before.
Yeah, I mean, you can't expect him to be more resilient to the crowd than any other Europeans. They all have more experience doing it. You know what I mean? Especially with a U.S. crowd.
But he's got this real Zen-like approach to whenever he plays pool that I just thoroughly admire, Ray. And it's severely underrated.
Yeah, no, I think he's a good player. I think he's trending towards becoming a really great player. And putting in the work to get there. So it's really just more of a matter of time for him. But I think, it's different when you have 3,000 people screaming at you, like legit screaming at you, not like, oh, this is wonderful, you're doing great.
Yeah, good job, Mickey.
Yeah, no, like
great job.
When they're really, giving you the Boston Garden treatment or whatever, you know what I mean? Like that's a different kind of deal. So we'll have to see how he responds to that. And being the new guy.
Look, if anyone's mean to Mickey, I may fight him, because Mickey's the nicest guy you can ask for. You know what I mean? But but it's the Mosconi Cup, Ray, and I get what you're saying, and 100%, and you're 100% right.
No quarter. We're not providing a quarter in quarantine for enemies.
Well, look,
not this week.
He earned his right to be there.
Yeah.
And nobody can take that away from that kid, which I just love when it comes to.
You gotta love it. You gotta love
it. It's a great story, and he's easy to root for. He's very poised and humble. Is that kid? I don't think the shot clock will be any type of issue, because his pace of play is very specific to. He is, yeah. So that's not gonna creep up on him. You know what I mean? If he dogs some balls and people start giving him shit, how will he respond? Because he's not used to kind of being the one to be on the receiving end of that, and we all know how the Mosconi Cup can be. And if it gets a little tight, and everything's kind of weighing on you, well, then how's it going to feel like when you have to come with the big point? And it's not just letting yourself down or losing out an opportunity for yourself, but more importantly, the other four guys who are out there battling with you, and I think that's the type of thing that Mickey hasn't experienced yet before. And it just depends on where they're at in the tournament and where Mickey is at in that match, relative to that.
I have a feeling Mickey is going to be fine in singles. I just wonder who his best doubles pairing is.
Who his best doubles pairing would be? You know what? Like, so in Manila, they kind of shielded him with Jay, right? Like, let me take you under my wing and help bring you on in because you don't have any experience. But it was a different animal out there in the opposite way, and so I feel like you can kind of put Mickey with anyone. I mean, if you want to, you know, put the crowd to bed, put him with Kachi, because neither one of them may say two words to one another, except to just point here. But like, I don't know. He's steady. I feel like he'll be more reliable. I know he's a rookie, and you don't get that respect for being out there until you earn it. And I completely understand that. But he's already earned that spot, and it just feels different than like in years past, Ray. Like when I thought about Alex making that team or other guys, who earned their way on, but you still thought, they got a little bit of rattle. I don't feel like that with Mickey, man. I just don't.
Yeah, I kind of agree with Crazy Brown Dog that I think his best doubles partner is probably going to be David. I have a feeling because David is so steady and so compact and not like a big personality is going to try and like, I think he's just going to be like Mickey can be the shot maker, you know what I mean? And David can be like the control guy. I think he's going to do well with somebody like that. Yeah. Whereas, somebody like...
Well, that's an interesting option for him because I feel like the conditions are going to be a big question mark. So, like, if it does get away, I would love to have a guy like David who is so compact on the other side of it. You know what I mean? To kind of be that balancing act for him, and also with a well-rounded game. So maybe that's an opportunity there for Jay as far as where to place Mickey. I look, like I mentioned, you don't go and get a resume until you go out there and get a chance. Well, now you got a chance, kid. You just got to go out there and make the best of it. So, who are we moving on to on the American side, Ray?
We are waiting on.
We got two more left, right?
Yeah, we got Tyler and Fedor left. So
all right, let's go with Opie.
Okay,
Old Red. Who I think this dude's game has swung up big time over the last few years. I feel like he's super steady for this tournament. I feel like his break is unreal, consistently unreal over the last 18 months. Now, in years past, I would say he can show his nerve in big spots, and that was a big question mark and liability for where he was at on that team. His experience and success over the last couple of years, maybe he's been able to fade that a little bit more. I felt like he looked more poised last year, but I feel like now Tyler's transitioning from being that young kid to being like an older man, not older man, but like he's matured. Yeah. He's not trying too hard to prove himself. He knows where he's at. I feel like he can. They can lean on him whenever they need to. Much like Billy, I feel like he can come with a big point as well. He can win against a bigger name per se, but. He may be the point as to whether or not Team USA wins or loses, depending on how Tyler goes this year.
I think Tyler at this point, probably over the last 11 months, he's just kind of been trending up and up and up and up and up. And over the last year and a half, he's worked himself into playing the best pool of his life. I think to your point, he's probably, he's top 2 or 3 breakers on the team, and that's saying something considering who's on the team. And in a format where the break is so important, every break is huge. You know what I mean? It's a big momentum swinger. You can really put the dagger in somebody if you continue to be productive on the break. I think he's got the makings to have a really solid contribution. He's one of those guys that you would look to for 3 points. You know what I mean? If I can get 3 points from Tyler this year, that to me puts
3 points is big.
Huge position as far as like what we have available, the flexibility we have, whether we can take a hit or two with some of our more favorite lineups and continue to keep punching. And I think he's got the mindset to put in the work, has put in the work, and that work is what has got him to this spot. I love him being paired up with a few of the guys. I think he pairs up obviously really great with Fedor. I think he obviously it's probably his best matchup as far as a doubles team. And well, because stylistically they're so similar. Yeah, it's temperament and all that stuff, and they train with the same people.
Right.
So, I think it'll be interesting to see how Tyler performs. I expect him to just continue to show form. He's had this season probably the most wins against, the higher level players into that, last rounds of the tournaments and winning a few of the tournaments here in the US. So yeah, I mean, I think he's about as ready as you can be,
Well, he takes advantage of opportunities, does Tyler? And like these big names, with that break, he's not just going to punish you with one. He's going to punish you with two. He's gonna take 2 points away from you in that race to 5, which is massive. I agree a lot with what you say. I don't feel like, though, that you can put him with a lot of guys because, he can be a little bit, I feel like maybe too much at times when it comes to, being too vocal out there. Obviously with Fedor, they would be perfect for one another. Even with Shane, but it's just because Shane can be a chameleon and can play any style of play that you can ask him, But like, I don't think he would blend well with a Billy. I don't think he would blend well with the Sky.
Billy and Tyler is probably on paper our weakest doubles lineup. So, just thinking, matching it up. I've done the flow chart. I've kind of like seen kind of what's what, and I have, ideas for what lineups would look like. But
I've been trying to get ready to spill the beans on what his lineup is, but he ain't giving it up. I got one more day to get it out of him.
Yeah, that's a different show. We can talk about it. I sent it to Oscar.
Did you?
Yeah.
What did he say? Out of curiosity.
That's a private conversation. I can't. It's still
nobody watches this trash show anyway, Ray. You ain't gotta worry about that.
We will talk about it another time offline.
All right. When we hit end stream, we'll tell a little bit about it. No, look, Tyler is not been so much of a talking point this year, so I feel like that's going to serve him well. Yeah. The how he'll weather the European crowd will be interesting, depending on how many Europeans are there. Because listen, out of anyone, they try real hard to get in Tyler's head, and Tyler wears it. Like, he wears it when someone says something to him that.
I think Tyler's part of the reason why he's done so well this year is the golf. He's found an outlet where pool isn't as like.
Well, he's also had success when he's playing tournaments with earbuds in as well. Which you're not afforded that at the Mosconi Cup. So I just like, they know they can needle that kid. You know what I mean? And so, but how you handle that mental stability is massive. I'm not a golfer, so I can't say whether or not that'll help, but I'm assuming it would be. You got to be able to find some balance and zen in your life and some happiness for sure. So
I think he's gotten to the point where he's kind of mellowed stuff out with pool, and it's in a better balance for him, and he's got an outlet that also kind of lets him work on those mental reps. Plus, he's been on the Mosconi Cup a few times. You know what I mean? So it's not like he's like a pure rookie going out there. So
not by any means, not anymore. All right, next up on deck, we got Francisco FSR thrown in there as a wild card. Some would say maybe he took Albin's place on that team for whatever reason. What do you think about Fran right now leading into this event?
Fran obviously, had a apex, year and a half there, but we're a little bit removed from that. And I felt like when I was peeking into the Reyes Cup, Fran looked a little bit vulnerable to me. Speed control was like off quite a bit in a few spots, and I feel like they're gonna really feel the pain if Fran does not contribute to his normal he's got to play his best. He can't really play like a B game.
A B plus they can fade. You can't, but you can't have the same guy who was out there in Manila show up. Right. In 2 days, that's for sure. Yeah.
He's got to be out there really, really contributing. I think he's a great partner guy, so that obviously Fair. World Cup finalist with David, and such a amicable, like relaxed kind of guy. But he's got to be able to lock in and find his edge. You know what I mean? Because he breaks the balls unbelievable as well.
Does he got an edge though, Ray?
I feel like when he was locked in and winning those tournaments, he was really like sharp, but I haven't felt that really, so much recently, especially with the Reyes Cup. I felt like it's kind of like, shifted back, and those things are cyclical. Sometimes it takes, you fall in and out of that to be really like blood in the water, tiger kind of mode. But I think they're going to need.
Well, you better get your shit together now because you're all out of time.
they're going to need it from him. He doesn't have the luxury that he had when he first came in the Mosconi Cup, where he made it on the team and he was surrounded by all the best players, and it was like he could skate by with being a little bit.
Well, he was the best player on the tournament scene without even being the third or fourth best player on his team in the Mosconi Cup.
Right, but then that year he could underperform in certain spots, and it was the worst deal because you had Albin and Josh and Jason, and you just had juggernauts behind them. So now where that chemistry is not as solidified, this is where we kind of start seeing the cost of not having people like the continuity of the Albin, Josh, and Jason build, for Team Europe. This is where you're going to start feeling that. And so it's his responsibility now to step into that secondary position and shore up the team. You know what I mean? So I think it's going to be interesting to see how he responds. I think he's one of those guys for Europe that also can be vulnerable to taking a little bit of the heat. I feel like David holds up a little bit better to the crowd because he kind of has to face those demons more regularly with people.
His head down though and just works.
Yeah,
David,
Yeah. And so, but I feel like FSR might be a hair more of an emotional player, and so there in that there's good, but there's also that's where his weakness will come from. You know what I mean? I think it'll be interesting to see how he responds. And Europe is going to feel it if he loses a match here and there that he's not supposed to. So,
look, there's a lot of question marks with this team as a whole, and so you don't want to be one of those question marks. And you were one of those question marks, like a month ago, whatever it was, And so, especially with having, Kaçi earn his way on points, a rookie in Mickey. Jay, who's going to have a lot on his plate and who can kind of be, riding the wave or underneath the wave, depending on how it's going. You got to be reliable if you're Fran. You got to be more of a leader. And if you want to be on this team for the next few years, these are your years where you go and earn your stripes, earn your paycheck as well. Because
years that establishes what kind of player he is on the Mosconi Cup.
For sure. Because
he's kind of like fallen into like the back of it, before, and hasn't had to be more spotlight. So now that Josh and Albin are gone, like spotlight's here.
Well, he's got to be more reliable and dependable for sure, because he's always had that cushion of having those guys who have come so clutch year after year, match after match, point after point in Albin and Josh. And so by them not being around, and this is the other thing. Look, you don't get very many opportunities to kind of take that position in that team, right? Because they don't come up very often. But when they do, you better go and make the best of it, because now you can be on this team for a long, long while with how you perform here in the next few days. Look, I feel like I get so confused with this game as of late, because you could have things like Manila, but then a few weeks prior, you have them winning that Perry event out in Hanoi.
Yeah.
So, and it's kind of been like that type of year for him, but you're going to have to be more of a leader. Jason's going to have to lean on you a little bit more. You can't lose points that you're supposed to win. You can't lose against guys like Tyler. You can't lose against guys like Billy. You're going to have to come with a big point against a guy like maybe even a Sky. You might get a pass against Shane or Fedor, because everyone does. But, you gotta handle your business.
Right.
If you're Fran. The other thing that I'm going to be paying a lot of attention to was the last time I saw Fran was in Hanoi playing a match with Sky, and there was a lot of heat during that match, and it was between those two players because Sky was pretty pissed that Fran was soft breaking. I mean, they stopped the match for quite a little bit of time during that to discuss it with Matchroom and the refs and all that. If I'm Sky, I'm immediately putting a bug in that referee's ear right away. Day number 1, match number 1. Hey, I want you to keep an eye on that dude soft breaking, because over the years, and it's listen, it's no secret. I'm gonna say it's not just Fran, because David and Jonas can soft break too, where he's lifting the leg and he's super animated, but nothing's going on.
Holding on to the Louis Vuitton while they're in their break cue. So,
but look, from a strategy standpoint, I'm right away going and talking about it. For sure. I want to make sure that I make him as uncomfortable as I can if I'm Sky thinking about Francisco. leading into that match, I want all eyes to be on how he's breaking the balls, because I do not want that safety net or that soft break to be something that he has in his back pocket. I want the heat to be on him right away. And coming off Hanoi, I feel like it will be in this event. It's something that I'll be keeping an eye on over the next few days, Ray. All right, let's finish off Team USA with the last American, the only Fedor.
Freddie G.
Freddie. Let's talk about Fedor for a little bit. He's shouldering a lot. Mr. Content Creator. Let's talk Fedor Gorst.
He's a beer drinking, video game playing.
Sounds American.
World 9-ball champion. So yeah. I mean, there's not really much to say so much about Fedor. Obviously, he's holding they made a slam out of him. I mean, he's got 3 of the big tournaments.
It seemed like a reach, Ray. I'm not gonna lie. Like it seemed like a reach.
It's a little reach, but hey, it's on a t-shirt somewhere. So
literally, yeah.
The kid is unbelievable. He's playing. I think now he's had a year with triple 60, and obviously won the World 9-ball, won the U.S. Open. So that's a name that when it's in the draw, everybody pays attention to it for a reason. He's worked his whole life to be as great of a player as he is. He had that great match with Shane earlier in the year where it went right down to the end. So the kid is, not really afraid of anybody. And the fact that there's not a Josh Filler on the other side of the aisle, he's going to be a menace for Team Europe. And I just expecting probably 4 or 5 points from Fedor this year.
Wow. Yeah. He's saying motherfucker's going to get half the points for the team is what you're saying.
He's going to be a part of them, for sure. I mean, how do you not like his end of a singles match? You got to like his end of it with Shane as a doubles partner, like his end of it with Sky as a doubles partner. His contributions are going to be heavy in the team event. I mean, the kid is, him and Fedor, him and Tyler are, up there, probably our number 4 or 5 doubles pairing. So, I mean, the kid's going to go up there and put up some points, and that's we're gonna see it for sure.
You mentioned getting a lot of big singles points, and I know you don't got Josh on the other side of it, and I'm with you. But let me put you on the spot here a little bit, Ray. What was the last singles point that Fedor's won in the Mosconi Cup?
I don't know. Last year, did he get a singles point? I'm trying to remember.
Negative.
Yeah, but that was also he had put his cues together for the first time like 8 days.
Okay. All right.
He can say it didn't affect him, but that's ritual suicide to me, I think. So I wasn't happy about it.
Let me ask the chat. Maybe the chat knows. What was the last win that Fedor had in singles in the Mosconi Cup? We'll throw you into that Hanoi Open shirt. But before I answer the question, because I don't prep hardly at all for any show that we do. I know it's shocking, right? Because I just talk out of my ass most of the time and make a fool out of myself. But I was like doing some history here over the last day or so, just kind of looking back. And I was real surprised by the answer to that. But listen, I know who Fedor is. I know he's a world champion. I know what he's done this year. I don't know that I've seen him over the last 2 months, though, Ray. I've seen him a lot online. I don't know that I've seen him a lot in the winner's circle over the last 2 months. And so
world 9-ball champion, Mike.
Yeah, in June, July, whatever it was. You're right. He was. You absolutely was. Kaçi was. Hey, let me tell you, Kaçi was a runner-up too. What happened with him? We ain't seen him in a few months as well, which we're gonna get to him here in just a minute. Listen, I'm not saying that he's disappearing like Kaçi did, right? I'm not saying that by any means, because you got to give that man the respect that he deserves. But on that stage, Ray, I feel like he might be crowned a little too prematurely. And with all of his like outside of stuff that he does, you know what I mean? Of like rah, 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 and having the camera on and being Mr. Guy. I feel like it may be too much. And there was a certain player on that team where I was talking about Fedor. It was in Hanoi. And we had that similar conversation is all this extra stuff maybe just a bit too much where he's getting worn down? We saw him pull out of Hanoi. We saw him not have the best result in the pair. And he talked about his fatigue and exhaustion and things like that. And so I know that the schedule hasn't been quite as grueling as it was back then. Crazy Brown Dog says no single wins. He has won a singles. It was against Corey Deuel. That's so that was during the COVID Mosconi Cup when he played for Team Europe.
I think it's more of a stretch to think that Fedor is gonna not perform well than it is to say that he's gonna go and perform well. And I know that if I am putting my roster
together,
on
paper that makes sense, and you would bet your whole house on it because that's how reliable that dude is. I get it.
And again, he's building he's building his legacy and all that stuff here. But I'd rather have the world 9-ball champion and U.S. Open champion on my team if I'm picking it, assuming we're playing the same discipline. And we are.
Agreed. Of course, because why wouldn't you? We know what we've seen from the kid. I get it. I get it.
Probably the best breaker in the world, probably the best jumper in the world, probably the best fundamentals.
Look, if you're going to say jumper, I want to know what he's jumping with before we crown him that, because at U.S. Open, there was a lot of jump shots that came pretty clutch during that. And I know what jump cue was out there during that match as well.
It's disgusting. Yeah. So I'm sure whatever he's jumping with, he'll be tuned in with. So, I mean, the guy's got probably the best break in the world, the best fundamentals, the best jump, holds well under pressure, obviously has now more experience winning and has taken some time maybe to rest and kind of get himself, his body right mentally. And
we talk about experience in this stage being completely different with everyone else, right? Like we always had that caveat with guys where it's just like, but it's the Mosconi Cup, but there's nothing like it. And the fact of the matter is, listen, we haven't really seen this guy go and perform in the Mosconi Cup up to his potential. Now, you would think that given the way that he's been playing this year, that this is the year you would really bank on, like him living up to the hype, you know what I mean? Or living up to what he's done to this point.
This is probably the year where he is going to start building his legacy and we start seeing who he is at the Mosconi Cup, because there's no,
we know what he can be.
No, like COVID bubble event that was an outlier. And then there's no, I just switched my cues like 4 days before the tournament either. So now, this is going to be, we're going to see him play, you know what I mean? And see how.
Which that's a real legitimate excuse. I 100% agree with you there. 110% agree with you there.
Unique kind of freaky things. And it's kind of taken a while to get into a situation where he can go and play this event. So we're going to see that now. And I think, if we just look at how his pedigree is, like you only expect him to continue to show up. So
look, if there's a guy you want to blind bet on every single match, especially right now, you're firing on Federer versus everybody on Team Europe right now. There's no filler waiting for you anymore, which is going to be massive. And I agree with you. He's got the upside of potential to get a lot of points for Team USA. Now, how he deals with all those expectations is going to be a different story, especially given the fact that it's that team environment. He's been very much known to be a me guy and all these things. Like, listen, I know who the guy is. He's an absolute killer, no pun intended. But you still got to go out there and do it on that stage when it's really time, and now it's time.
Yeah. No, so, I think this will be a stage where he starts to build his Mosconi Cup legacy for sure.
Well, he's going to be on the team for the next 20 years.
And so he's winning more 9-ball championships.
Well, he ain't even got to get that far. All right, let's talk Kaçi. Last guy on deck, last member, second for Team Europe when it comes to points, but a lot of question marks with Eklent. We know he came off an injury. He should have been on the team last year, gets injured, comes back this year, makes a monstrous run. But like similar, I don't want to say similar to Federer, but like we haven't seen him be who he was through the World Championships. We haven't seen him in the last 4 months, Ray.
I would say, obviously Kaçi probably has the hardest break of anybody on both teams. Probably Shane is.
But it's still pretty precise, though, is the crazy thing about it.
Yeah, which is nuts because it's not normal. It's an abnormal thing. And he's obviously super skilled from a singles technical perspective. Like he's just efficient and really just a killer.
Yes.
But I have yet, like my biggest concern with Kaçi has nothing to do with obviously his skills and his talent on the table, but I have yet to see him come to a Mosconi Cup and be a conduit for the team. That kind of gets together. I think for me, he's a chemistry stopper. And I think historically, Mosconi Cup specifically, he's underperformed based on how great of a player he is, because he is when he's playing his best game, he's a top 5 player in the world. But I feel like for whatever reason, he has not performed well at the Mosconi Cup. And I think part of that has to do with how, I just don't see how he connects with the other players on an emotional level.
He don't.
How does an Albanian and a Spanish person, like, how do you?
I feel like it's a joke at the bar, Ray.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Kind of like, but it's kind of like that with everyone, really. You know what I mean? And he's so great, you can't really say anything to him because he's like, he'll punch you.
He's like 8 foot tall, and you know.
He's a huge dude. So he's got this like very imposing persona. Like, how does he break himself down and make himself vulnerable to the team when I don't really see that being in his nature as a person?
No, it's not, but he's also very aware. And listen, I walked in that locker room right as soon as the confetti came down and they were wrapping up Team Europe after that loss to the Asian team. And right away when I talked to Kaçi, and here's the thing, look, I don't like talking to guys whenever they lose, right? Especially a dude that's 8 foot tall and was kind of a punchline throughout that entire Mosconi Cup, which Kaçi kind of was to some extent. But like right away, there was ownership. Right away, he realized it. And it wasn't even like me reaching for the conversation. Like, he acknowledged it immediately. You know, he was like, hey, listen, this is not my best game. I can do a lot better than this. And I'm paraphrasing here, but he knew that he came up short. And that part I love because it was like he was immediately taking the positives in that I'm going to go work to get to where I need to be, because I know I'm not where I need to be come December.
He's a professional. I think he's very likely, nobody likes losing, and he's like relentless when he gets going. I mean, there's matches of watching him play a perfect set. You know what I mean? So the guy knows what to do to close it out, and he's not really scared of anybody. He's been there. He's been.
No.
He's just, he's casual as you can be, playing for the biggest moments. So I think he's going to be a great singles asset for them. But, I haven't seen him yet bring his game to the Mosconi Cup. And so I think, Fran and him are question marks for me when it comes to a few things. And, there's a few question marks. So they have to have all these questions answered and put them together and go out against Team USA, who I think has less question marks and the home crowd advantage for them. So I think, the advantage is right now.
You're saying Team USA has got less question marks than Team Europe. Is that what you're saying, Ray?
Percent, yeah. At least with this roster, for sure. Yeah, there's less question marks for Team USA.
Interesting. Okay, yeah. We're gonna talk more about that. We're already out of time. We're gonna talk more about that maybe whenever I see you next. I'm gonna put the phone on you right away. Look, we got a lot of stuff coming up for the next few days. I am in Orlando, as is Ray. We're gonna be out there at the Mosconi Cup tomorrow, Hall of Fame banquet, and then we're gonna be out there for the press conference as well. I got to be out there early because I'm getting some interviews with Sky, with Jason, and with Emily tomorrow. So it'll be a busy day and a lot of stuff being posted on Windows. So make sure and keep your eyes peeled for that. I think we want to do one more show, Ray. And listen, I want to do like going over the lineups, Ray. We're gonna need that lineup, and we're gonna need it tomorrow.
A mock lineup for sure.
Yeah. So tomorrow night, I want to do a mock lineup show. If we can. So that's your homework, Ray. We appreciate all of you guys for hanging out with us.
Who are you talking?
I appreciate all you guys for hanging out with us. More importantly, I appreciate this guy for making time on Thanksgiving along with all of you guys. Big shout out to all of our sponsors who have helped bring us out here, and we got a lot more stuff in store for you guys. So keep your notifications on, and we'll see you at the Mosconi Cup.
Safe travels to everybody coming down. I know there's a lot of people traveling either now or tomorrow. If you have any questions, friends of mine, whatever, feel free to DM me on Facebook. I'll happy to get you connected and hooked up. Come into my city. I'll do my best to take care of you. So.
Attaboy.